Time now for MediaWatch. James Creedon joins us for MediaWatch as ever. Good evening to you, sir.
Evening, Mark.
Now then, starting with the shutdown in the US, Le Monde, esteemed newspaper here in France, of course, describing this whole thing as a pathetic spectacle.
That's their headline in today's front page editorial, Mark. The pathetic spectacle in Washington, or Washington's pathetic spectacle. Yes, Peter Spectac. And they go on to say the spectacle unfolding on front of our eyes is not alone deplorable, but it is a very bad omen, even if a last-minute solution is found to this government shutdown. This has unveiled how dysfunctional the US democratic system is from the 80s leading up to its climax right now. They talk about gerrymandering of constituencies, giving Republicans an artificially strong position.
Borders, isn't it? And change it round. Yeah.
That's right, to basically guarantee more seats to the Republicans, leading to a situation where minority points of view can block the majority, what some call vetocracy. And in any case, so a scathing editorial saying that the monetary and political credibility of the US is being held hostage by a minority of extremists, i.e. Tea Party types. Now, what's interesting is Le Monde is also looking on their back page at things from the Asian perspective. They have Sylvie Kaufman writing from Beijing, and she says really that from a soft power point of view, this is catastrophic for the US in Asia. And she goes on to talk about APEC, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. Their forum was in the last few days in Indonesia. Obama wasn't there. Asia Pacific, that should usually leave for a pretty prominent position for the US, not there.
It is now US foreign policy's biggest target, isn't it? That area to develop that.
And he was held hostage in the US. John Kerry was sent instead. And the family photo, as she points out, it was really just symbolically just awful. You have John Kerry there on the outer fringes on the far right, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping very much in centre. And she goes on to point out that Obama also had to cancel 2 bilateral trips, one to Malaysia and one to the Philippines. And what a coincidence, Xi Jinping went to Malaysia basically at the same time on his way to that APEC summit, then went on to Indonesia, first foreign head of state ever to address the Indonesian parliament, i.e. America's loss is China's gain in terms of weight, influence and power in Asia.
Indeed. And of course that shutdown not just affecting the whole of the United States, it's also affected the D-Day memorials here in France, in Normandy.
That's right. The Wall Street Journal went there over the last number of days, and this was in yesterday's print edition. Shutdown hits Normandy, but some US landmarks reopen. The Statue of Liberty, for example, is reopened. But they point out in this article that for many veterans of World War II, American veterans, coming to Normandy is sort of a lifelong pilgrimage back to the Normandy landing, etc. And some of them were left climbing over cemetery fences because they had to turn people away. It had been shut down.
Isn't it? It's disgraceful.
It just goes to show the extent.
It's sad. It's very sad.
Symbolically, it's a pretty interesting detail and sad detail indeed.
It's very sad because that area it's such a moving sight and such a respectful place, and for that to be, well, for people to be denied access when they're going there to pay respects it's just not human, is it? It's
Absolutely.
not very nice at all. Dreadful. Okay, let's change the mood a little bit now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've read the International Herald Tribune. It's a big newspaper published in Paris. It's mainly American news, isn't it, I suppose?
That's
world
right.
news. World news.
That's right. And
but it's going to change, isn't it?
Well, for the last 10 years, the only shareholder has been the New York Times. It's got a history stretching back to the late 1800s. But now that is the very last time, Mark, we're ever going to see International Herald Tribune across the top of that newspaper. From tomorrow, it's going to be International New York Times, right? This is actually not today's edition because everybody was pilfering them in the newsroom. I don't have my own copy, but that's another story.
I spy a collector's item.
Absolutely. eBay, I think there'll be a few copies of that on eBay soon. In any case...
They'll be worth like double the face value, won't they?
That's right, that's right. I'm not sure about last Thursday's edition, which is what I'm left with. But anyway, some people pointing out that if, a lot of nostalgia in Paris.
That's why it's famous, that picture
that's
there,
right.
isn't it? Jean-Paul Belmondo and Jean Seberg in Abu Dassouf or Breathless by Jean-Luc Godard, and she is selling the New York Herald Tribune on the Champs-Elysees, and that's why it's famous.
And you haven't seen that photo before. That is impressive
Other
general knowledge.
than that, I don't like the paper.
Well, some people were saying this was 1960 when selling a daily paper could still be an erotic act. apparently that is now no longer the case, according to Rue 89, who had that photo on top of their article today about the demise of the International Herald Tribune under that name. Now, this is all part, of course, of the New York Times global strategy, kind of like the Huffington Post. They have editions and numbers in various different languages around the world now, and it's all part of their survival strategy on a global level. They have, for example, Mark, a Chinese edition now, even though that's been censored very much by Beijing.
Soft power.
Soft power, and basically it's double or quits, said one veteran of the paper. So they have to streamline and go global if they hope to survive financially.
Let's bring back Belmondo and Gene Silberg to
all right, it probably is the finish.
I have on good opinion that picture hangs in the editor's office at the International Herald Tribune.
Well,
as it used to be called.
That's right. The IHT is dead. Long live the International New York Times.
James Creedon, long live you, sir. Thank you for joining us. Pleasure working with
Thanks,
you.
Mark.
James Creedon, the king of MediaWatch. The one and only James Creedon. If he didn't exist, they'd have to invent him. Thank you, sir. Now then, a short break after that. We're back with another World News Update, plus, of course, our eye on Africa. Stay with us, live from Paris.